And we are live. Hello, friends. So nobody's actually joined the meeting yet, so it could be a short meeting. This is Office Hours. I do this every Friday that I'm able. And today, actually, my wife is with my kids at school for something. And so my youngest son, who's not at school yet, is taking well, he hasn't woken up yet. I was going to say he's taking a nap, but yeah, it's not really a nap if he hasn't woken up yet. So he's just in the room next to me. And so at any moment, I might have to leave to take care of him. And I've already made him breakfast and everything. So yeah, if he does wake up, then I'll have him go eat breakfast and we'll see how much of this we can get done. So if you are new here, Office Hours is your opportunity to ask me questions each week. And yeah, you can share screen, you can whatever. So I get questions from folks a lot throughout the week. And so just putting it all together makes it a little easier for me. I always give priority to people who are in the Zoom call. So if you want to join the Zoom call, then that would be super. And yeah, I'm just going to go through Discord starting, I think right here. Anish is asking about this tic-tac-toe basic component. Okay, and so it says, I don't understand why the alert is thrown before the board is rerun. Here, let me just say, answering this now, just in case they want to watch and ask follow-ups and stuff. You can check the winning state. Why is the state render not happen on the DOM, and how to fix this so that alert comes after the board is updated by the winning move. Okay, so if we do this, well, I'm not seeing an alert at all. Here, let me just go ahead and sign in really quick. And then I'll fork this. Okay, so that should be a winning move. There's no O's. I'm guessing that they made this, and then there was a they like made a change and it broke or something. Let me find the alert and I'll just talk about alert. No, that's just the board. Constants probably nothing. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what alert you're talking about. And it looks like it doesn't work anyway, but let's go ahead and we'll fix it. Let's see if I can figure out why it's broken. So we've got our board matrix template. What is that? Okay, so it's an array of rows. I'm guessing it's the rows. It could also be the columns, I suppose. Let's see how he renders that. He or she, sorry, they. And so we've got our board. By the way, I do have tic-tac-toe as an exercise in Epic React, and you can go through the material and see how I teach how to build that. Just thought I'd mention that. You're doing it differently, and that's not wrong. Yeah, so we got the current player, start with X, last selected field. Okay, that looks like it's supposed to be an object with a row and column. Okay. And then we've got our game state is pending. And that can also be draw, one, or pending. Okay, that makes sense. And then you're getting an ESLint warning here. This is not good. You don't want to have ESLint warnings on your dependency array. You will probably have a bug. So it's missing current player and last selected field. So I'll look into that, but that may be why we've got this bug. Here, let's put it in. Or what is it? No code actions available. Okay, so it's complaining about cur player and last cell field. There we go. Okay, here, I'm guessing that's not going to fix it, but who knows? Yeah. Okay, handle player move. And here, let's just look. We're going to return Oh, okay, that's fields. Got it. Okay. So if I were to write this, I would do this. Oh, hold on a second. Fields push, and then you're going to push all those. Okay, yeah, I probably wouldn't do it this way, but yeah, you can do it that way if you want. Fields push, row map. Each one is a div with a button in it. Has data properties, and then on click handle player move that we'll get from the data set. And then we're going to update the board with the current player. And that current player should be set and changed each time we click that. Let's just make sure, yep, player X and O is correct. So my guess here is that the reason that we're only getting X over here, let me double check, but console log. Yeah, hold on a second. So we're saying after we set the board, we want to set the game state and the current player. So what's really happening, like if I were to restructure this, I'm not going to take the time to finish this, but you're probably running into this bug because you have state that is interdependent, and really you could actually derive this state. So let me show you how I implement mine. And then we can talk about that a little bit more. This is in React. I think it's, yeah, React hooks. And if we go into, let's do the final, I think it's exercise 4, maybe. Okay, so I have a couple utility functions here for determining the state of the game. Here, actually, let's not do the extra credit because that one is, that one saves stuff in local storage and has history and stuff. I'll do the simple one. Yeah, that one's also local storage, so just this one. Okay, so this is the simplest version. You can look at those other ones later if you want to. But yeah, so we, the only state that we're managing is the squares. Yours is the board, but and I have 9 squares rather than an array of arrays. But that is it. The rest of this is derived state, and that's actually part of what I'm teaching in the exercise, is teaching about state versus derived state, and it's a really important difference. It's what's leading to some of the problems you're having. Let's see. I don't know if I have a short URL for this blog post, but I do have a blog post about derived state. Yeah, derived. Yeah, don't sync state, derive it. So I will add this to my message down here so you can take a look at that. Yeah, so I have the next value, or who the current player is. I have who the winner is. And so that's kind of like your board state. And then the status is like your who's currently or what, yeah, whether it's a draw, there's a winner, or a pending. So that's kind of what that's all about. So we have kind of the same thing, but you're able to do this just by looking at the current state of the board. Like, you know which player is next by how many X's and O's there are. If there are equal number of X's and O's, then it's X's turn. If there's one more X than an O, then it's O's turn, and that's it. So you don't need to store some special state and keep that in sync with what the state of the board is. Yeah, the danger is that they can fall out of sync. So if you derive state, then they can't, because you derive it like on demand. You just have these functions. You can also determine the winner based on just the squares. You can determine the current status based on just the squares. So that's probably why we're getting this. Oh, hey, now that's working. Oh, and now it's an X. Nope. Yeah, see, things are kind of messed up because of that. So yeah, I could dive in here a little bit more, but really the solution is you can do this 2 ways. You could either do what I'm doing, which is what I would recommend. Don't have state for things that aren't state. just something that you can derive based on other state. Or you can store those things in state, but I would use reducer. And I have a blog post about that. So should I use state or use reducer? So you can give this one a look. And the basic rule, I think I put at the end here, just like a summary. When it's just an independent element of state you're managing, use state. When one element of your state relies on the value of another element of your state in order to update, use reducer. And that's your case. So you don't know whether to put an X or an O unless you know what the state of the current player is. And you don't know who the next player should be without well, I guess you just toggle the current player, but yeah, you can't determine who the winner is without knowing what the board is. And so like these elements of state are interlocked. And like I said, it's better to just derive them and have one thing of state that you can determine the other things. But this is, if you don't do that, this is definitely a situation where use reducer is much better and you'll avoid those, the bugs that you've got. So I'm not sure what you're talking about with the alert situation thing, but yeah, hopefully this helps you get in the right direction for your actual question. Okay, great. Hopefully that helps. 9S, I think your name is Mithi. Hold on a second. I think I hear my son. One sec. I'm going to mute myself. Okay, we are back. Hello. Hey, and we're joined by new friends. So if you're just joining, my wife is taking care of kids at school this morning. And so I have the unschooled child at home right now. And he just woke up. So he slept in, yeah, pretty late. But yeah, just gave him some breakfast and he's going to get ready. for the day. Okay, so I was reading your article, The Latest Ref Pattern, and I thought about this idea of a simple hook that's responsible to keep a function up to date, but not re-rendering the component. What do you think of this? Looking forward to your thoughts. Use update without re-rendering callback function. And next, use next effect. Oh, okay, yeah, interesting. I'm not sure that you would need this use next effect thing, but yeah, I think my blog post has a hook just like this. The only difference is the use next effect. Let's see, maybe it doesn't. I thought it did, but like, yeah, it's a good idea. Latest ref pattern. I thought oh no, I guess I didn't. Anyway, yeah, so I see what you're doing. So because you want this to support server rendering, yeah, so that you want your hook to support server rendering. Yep, that's fine. What you could do is, instead of having it be use effect, you could just swap use effect for a no up, because that's not going to run on the server anyway. But either one's really fine. Yeah, totally. That's I think that and so I actually didn't come up with the latest ref pattern. I credit Yago in here. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it's a great thing. Totally makes sense. Thumbs up. I guess I don't have much more to say than, yeah, looks good. Okay, sweet. One thing, I guess I would take this and move it outside of the hook. That's all. And I'd maybe, instead of calling it that, I'd call it use latest ref. I think I have done that before. Okay, Shikar, user events latest release skips the loading state in the following example. Could you please help me debug this? It might be hard to debug it if I can't actually run it. So a runnable example is always appreciated, but I can maybe talk through it. Hopefully we'll see if I can manage that. So you have this fetch data thing. Oh man, I just got to throw a remix reference in here. You do not need hooks like this if you're using remix, and all this state stuff and everything is just so nice and managed for you. Yeah, there are so many problems that we don't think to manage, and remix takes care of them all, and you don't have to think about it. So, I mean, I know that this is probably just an example, but there are definitely bugs in here, and yeah, it's remix takes care of all of those things. And I'm not saying that as like a reflection on you, the developer, but as like the problem, and the problem space is really tricky. So like, for example, race conditions is one that we often don't think about, and canceling requests when another one's been made, stuff like that. But don't worry about it. It's fine. This is hard stuff. I had to shout out to Remix for making this stuff so much easier. Okay, anyway, and I realize that this is just like a quick demo. I'm sure you could handle those race conditions and stuff if you wanted to put some effort into it. So here, yeah, you've got this a spy on window fetch. That's the first thing I'd say. Don't do that. Let's see, I've got a blog post about that. I think, yeah, you may have read this, and maybe this is just part of your simple example. But stop mocking fetch will be relevant to you there. And yeah, okay. So yeah, anyway, this is pretty simple. We've got an on click on the button. We fetch the to-dos, set state to say it's pending, and then we do our fetch. We JSONify it, and then we set the data. Otherwise, we catch the error. And then based on the current status, we'll do all this stuff. Like, this is very familiar. Like I've definitely done this sort of thing. Yeah, so if it's not idle, pending, or resolved, then we render out the button, or we assume it's rejected. That's interesting. Oh, okay, this is body L, and then you render the button with the body. Okay, that makes sense. I was like, how does it ever get down here? But you're not returning, you're just assigning to the body L. Makes sense. Okay, so we've got a setup to get the user. You call setup. Oh, and you also render. Yep. Okay, so it's like your little setup function. And you have some fake to-dos, your mock JSON thing so that you can resolve the JSON to resolve to those fake to-dos. Yeah, it makes sense. And then you get your user out of that. You await user click. You don't need to do this, by the way. If you're not passing anything to setup, I could be wrong, I guess, because I'm not maintaining the library anymore. But from my understanding, and when I updated all the Epic React repos, I didn't have to do setup. If you're not passing anything to setup, you can actually just call user event.click and it works fine. Yeah, so click the button to fetch to-dos, fetch the to-dos, and then the loading fails. Yeah, so this is the reason why I didn't want to. Oh, there's my son again. 1 second, and I'll talk about this here in just a sec. He just wanted to show me a big shirt that he likes. Yeah, so this is the reason why I originally backtracked on making all user event stuff asynchronous, because what's happening, my guess of what's happening without actually being able to run it is as soon as you click it, you have you schedule one tick of the event loop to say, run the fetch request that's going on here. But because of the way that you're mocking it, the next tick of the event loop is going to immediately resolve all of this promise and set the state. And so you never get a chance to test the pending state at all. And so that is, yeah, because by the time it's already immediately set up all that state. So this is happening on different ticks of the event loop, but this await of the click happens on a much later tick of the event loop, because I think there's a delay of, I don't know how long. And so that's why this is happening. I can tell you maybe how to solve this possibly, but just give me 1 more second. Okay. Yeah, so what you might be able to do, I'm not sure that this will work, but you might be able to do this. You can, instead of awaiting this, assign the user click. User click is going to return a promise. That's why you can await it. Assign that promise to a value. So let's just do this. Try this. So let's try click promise. Expect that, and then await click promise. I think that will work. I am not positive, but I think that will do it for you. You may need to do, and maybe this. You might need to do that. Yeah, so give that a shot. I think one of those will work. Pretty confident one of them will work. But yeah, this is the reason I backtracked on making everything async, because I thought about it and even implemented it like 2 years ago, I think, and decided to not do that. And that's actually why user event isn't part of DOM testing library, is because this seems like testing pending states would be tricky. The other thing that I would recommend is to not mock fetch and use MSW instead. Okay, hopefully that is helpful. Good luck. And Kishore, I see Peter just sent a message, so maybe we'll get a question from him, but we're down to the end here. Event delegation in React. Should we keep a quick function on a tag, which can be done using delegation in Vanilla.js, but the same in React can be done without any on-click. So I would not worry. My first question is, why are you asking about this? And my assumption is you're worried about some performance thing. And I would say, don't worry about that unless you've measured and you've seen that there's a problem on like the low end devices that you need to support and whatever, because that is unlikely to be the case. At least in every production app that I've ever made, that's never been the bottleneck. There are always vast larger issues that you can spend your time worrying about. Yeah, you can pretty much trust. I mean, React does event delegation. I don't know if maybe you didn't know that, but that's how React works. Is every on-click on whatever event that you set anywhere in the React tree is handled by React's event system, which is all delegation. So you probably are fine. You definitely don't need to do event delegation yourself when you're using React, because React already does it. Hopefully that helps. Just answered this. Okay, and I think Peter's the next one here. So let's get to Peter. Hi, Peter. Oh, and just helping somebody else. Wonderful. Great. Good stuff. Actually, you know what? Another thing I'll mention about this is we're probably going to change this. Remix owns Reach UI, so yeah, we're maintaining that. 1 second. Yeah, so we're actually going to change this because Dino window is actually defined, and so we're going to switch this to type of document. And then maybe I'm not sure why we do this. It's unclear to me whether that's necessary. I think that it's because React does that, and I don't know why. Like all these extra checks, but yeah, don't use window for determining whether you're on the server. Use document. Because Dino supports window on the server. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, cool. That's it. My son needs me, so I'm going to jet. Hopefully Kishore finishes their message. Just by way of closing, I don't think that I am canceled next week. I'm pretty sure everything is good. Let me just see. Yeah, office hours is the only thing I have scheduled for next Friday, so that's nice. So yeah, still planning on joining for office hours. Oh, I just noticed there are a couple people in the chat. Okay, so it looks like there's some more questions. Give me just a second to help my son with something, and then I will be right back, and I can answer any questions that you've got still. Okay. Yeah, so nothing Nothing left in here. Yeah, too many on clicks. Yeah, you don't need to worry about it, Kishore. Okay, in Zoom, looks like we had a couple people, or at least one person who wanted to ask something.
Yeah, hi Kent.
Hi.
Actually, I wanted to ask that I'm working for an open source organization. I'm currently residing in Pakistan, but I'm working for them. And also, they have a pretty good React app on the front end. I want to update the packages. They haven't updated the packages from a very long time. Also, they don't have any TDD in their project. So with this, actually introduced the CEO with the TDD stuff and gave a couple of articles to. So he was very, he's willing to introduce that into the product. My question is, should I keep this going and introduce the TDD into my React client, because the product is very vast right now. Also, should I update the packages, and if yes, what approach should I follow to update them? Like, should I update the React first and then go to the other ones, or should I update all then refactor the code according to the new breaking changes?
Yeah, well, that's yeah. Well, first to the question about TDD. I think TDD for me personally is less interesting than just testing in general. TDD doesn't always make sense, and so I actually have a blog post about that. About when test-driven development makes sense. Yeah, when I follow TDD. So I'll just post that here so you can take a look at that. But yes, testing for sure, I would say is worthwhile to figure out a good testing strategy. So yeah, keep banging that drum for sure. As far as updating the packages, without great testing, you run the risk of breaking like just any part of the application. It's really difficult to know unless there's only one section of the app that uses a particular dependency. You pretty much have to check the entire app when you update a dependency, which is part of what you can tell the CTO, like, hey, listen, whenever we want to make any update to our dependencies, we have to check the entire app. That sure stinks. Why don't we do some testing? And so, yeah, I think what I would recommend is to get some big end-to-end tests that go through like really important flows. Get those in place before you start updating a bunch of dependencies. And started, I think I have a post about yeah, how to add testing to an existing project. That might be helpful too. But that's kind of what that says, is start with the big end-to-end test that covers a lot of the big user flows that are important. And then you'll feel a lot more confident as you're updating dependencies. Because yeah, if you start with updating dependencies first, you're going to have to check everything to make sure you didn't break anything. So does that answer your question?
Yes, I guess I should first write that end-to-end test and then update the package. Yes, that's right. Also, I have one more interesting question. You always have a script folder in your projects. I tried to find it, any blog post or any stuff, but I didn't find it. But you
Yeah.
always have some, automation type of stuff. Just when you run npm setup and it runs everything. I tried to write that script, but I failed at it. So I was, looking into your repository. I tried to find any blog post, but I didn't. So if you can help me in writing that, just give me a path. I'll follow that to write
Yeah,
my
yeah.
own script.
So you're talking about like in my workshops, how you just, my instructions are clone the repo, cd into that directory and run node setup.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then
So
it runs every scripts
yeah.
and everything
So
in the
setup
folder.
is just a JavaScript file in here. And that, well, it points over to the scripts setup file. But all this does is we grab spawn sync from child process and we spawn sync first npx version to make sure that they have npx installed. And if they don't, then we can let them know that it's not installed. And then we run npx against this gist. And this gist and I do that so that if I need to make an update to the way that my workshops are set up, and that I can just do it in this one place, and all of the other ones get that that update. Yeah, so it just runs a bunch of scripts. This is all using it's using spawn sync from child process, and so it's just running a bunch of different scripts. And so it runs npx. This is another thing for validating that people's systems are set up. So if I need to change that, then I can do that, and it applies to all projects. And then dependency installation. So I run npm install, run npm run validate. And so that'll run the script in this package JSON, which will be different for each project potentially. And so for this one, it runs build, test, coverage, and lint, just to make sure that the project's set up properly on their machine, and that all of that stuff passes. And then I also have a little script that will autofill people's email if they provide it in all of the feedback forms, so they don't have to type that out every time. So that's what all this is for. So that's the flow, and you can go ahead and dive in starting right right here. This is where it all starts. Does that help?
Yes, yes.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure thing. Okay, wired up. We've got a question here. And again, if you're in Discord, you can interrupt me at any time and I will stop and answer your question. So I often find myself, yeah, go ahead.
Yep, Kent, I had a question. So I asked this to you a couple of days back regarding the updated user event library, and it was not working with the loading state. So
Yeah,
wanted-
did you
yeah, I
see?
had.
I did answer your question. If you just go to the YouTube live stream and go back a couple minutes, then you'll see me answer that.
Oh, okay, I missed that. Okay, sure,
Yep.
I'll do that.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so writing duplicate tests when writing unit integration end-to-end, since they all tend to do, test the same some things, but on different levels. To what extent is this a problem? How can I avoid it? Yeah, that is a good observation. I typically, this actually is not exactly what this blog post is about, but it's relevant. What is it that I'm looking for? Yeah, what to test, how to know what to test. So in here, I basically talk about what I call use case coverage, which is more important to code than code coverage, though they are somewhat related. But when we're talking about testing, we're not just testing just because like that's what we're supposed to do. We're actually trying to accomplish a goal. And if you've got like a fancy calculation function that's run on your product details page, or maybe, yeah, sure, we'll say that product details page, and you have an end-to-end test that goes to the product details page, and that completely handles all, like that one test somehow handles all of the use cases of that utility, then you don't need to have unit tests for that utility. You're covered. That use case is covered. But more often is the case, and maybe you've got a couple of utilities that are just that. And it's just like call it and it'll give me the way to display it and whatever. And so long as you're making an assertion on it, if you're not asserting on it, then all you know is that it ran and it didn't throw an error. Yeah, so if you make an assertion on it in your end-to-end test, then you're covered. But yeah, often you'll have lots of little bits of logic that don't make sense to have like 30 different ways that function is written, or use cases that function's meant to handle. And that is why you need to think about like use case coverage, because if that is the case and those use cases are really important to handle, then you so you're left with two options. You can either have a bunch of end-to-end tests to cover all of those use cases for every single utility function. Or you just have one end-to-end test that like covers the general flow, it makes some assertions as it goes, and then a bunch of unit tests to test all the varying like complex edge cases and stuff like that of your utility functions. So yeah, I think hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a big problem, but yeah, you do want to avoid over coverage. Actually, that's another. Let's see, mistakes. Common testing mistakes is also relevant here. So, okay, cool. Are we all satisfied? I'm not seeing any messages coming through on Discord. Any last questions on Zoom? Okay, great. That's fun. I'm going to hang out with my son now. So thanks everybody for hanging and chilling, and we'll see you all next week.